I would like to make you a treat from my grandma's recipe box. This box, I believe, was started by my grandma in the 60s. No one's really sure, but that's whenever she got married and had kids. So I feel like it makes sense that she started a recipe collection when she had a family. We're gonna get into this collection of recipes for this whole series. But first, apron chat. Today's apron was sponsored by my Aunt Lucy. She's my grandma's sister. She made it for me a few months ago. I haven't taken a picture of me in it and sent it to her or my mom. So this is your chance to take a screenshot and tell me how cute I look. Thanks! My goal for this series is to make most, if not all, of the recipes in this box and add the ones I like to this cookbook that my grandma gave me before she passed. It's just a simple Betty Crocker cookbook. Came with like magnets, it's got recipe cards. She wrote me a recipe in here already. Let me find it. I think it's for like potato salad or something. It was really cute. It makes me very happy. Here it is. Yeah, it's for potato salad. So as you can see, that's her handwriting. It's got her signature and everything. So sweet. So yeah, I've already started adding recipes to this cookbook, but they're not from here. Merlin's trying to get into the toaster. Please stop. Follow along as I'm figuring this out. Thanks for coming along. So, oh, Merlin. I am going to brew a little cup of coffee. Let's pour one out for the G-Ma. I bought this just to make this video. And I think I'm gonna do it for every single video. I picked today's recipe because it's cozy season. It's time to cuddle up and get warm and enjoy the weather if you don't live in Texas. Okay? Don't judge the way I pour this. While that's brewing and sputtering everywhere because it's boiling, it's making a mess. Okay, well, that's fine. This seems like a very cozy cake to make for any cozy afternoon. Are you having a spooky movie marathon? Are you watching Gilmore Girls for the 20 millionth time? Or are you hosting just a nice little hobby night with your friends and family? The cake that don't stay around is the cake you should make for such occasion. At least I think it's the cake you should make. I don't know if it tastes good or not. We'll see. I asked my mom if she has any memories of this recipe because I don't know how old this card is. I don't know when she wrote it. And my mom said, and I quote, "Nope, sorry, sounds good though, except for the cons." She does sound like that. And I also do not have any memories of this cake. But I do have memories of her making bundt cakes. She was very well known for the orange bundt cake. The recipe goes as follows. The cake that don't stay around. 3 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon baking soda, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 cups of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1.5 cups of oil, 3 eggs, 1 cup of chopped pecans, 1 8.5 ounce can of crushed pineapple, drained, 2 cups mashed bananas, 1.5 teaspoons vanilla. Mix dry ingredients, make a well. Add remaining ingredients, stir but do not beat. Bake in greased and floured bundt pan, 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour and 10 minutes. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? With that recipe read, come round to the kitchen and let's get started. I wanted to also note that the mug I'm using today was my grandma's. Got a lot of chips in it. When it came to looking for the origins of this recipe, which is what I thought I was gonna make this video about, like the origins of every single recipe, I soon discovered that that would be impossible, maybe just kind of boring, because there are an insane amount of iterations of this exact recipe all over the internet. I'm thinking this is a recipe that most great-great-grandmas, great-grandmas, and grandmas, and your mom probably has. So I recommend going to your family recipe holder thing, whether it's a box or some other kind of container, and giving it a good look-see, because odds are you're gonna find some kind of recipe similar to this one. I think, in my opinion. And I would love to see how your family has it written down. So again, I'm faced with what are we going to talk about? Because I want it to be more than just baking. This guy is native to the southern United States and northern Mexico. He's the state nut of Alabama, Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana, and he's also the state tree of my home state, Texas. And these trees are everywhere. I've grown up around pecan trees my whole life. Sometimes I wonder about people with nut allergies, like tree nut allergies. I guess I've not known enough people with specifically pecan or walnut allergies. I'm allergic to cashews, kind of, maybe. Wikipedia says it's pronounced pecan, but we'll get into that in a minute. After I give you some more bits and bops of information that you're going to enjoy while you're eating your cereal or your quiche. Only thinking about breakfast. Pecan trees preferring well-drained, loamy soil along rivers are well adapted to deal with a wide variety of precipitation, temperature, and soil types, and can be cultivated worldwide. Pecan comes from the
Algonquin
word meaning pecans, walnuts, and hickory nuts.
Algonquin
People are a North American indigenous tribe from the Ottawa River Valley in Canada and parts of the US. According to this map, you can see that no one, at least in the US, can agree on how to pronounce pecan. Even regionally, it's a debate that you have had numerous times in your life, and I bet you have never changed your mind on how to pronounce it. Well, we're all saying it wrong, at least according to the National Pecan Growers Association in 1927, when they said, and I quote, "They have acknowledged variant pronunciations while designated one as official and correct, pronounced as though spelled pecan. Those in the habit of using any other pronunciation therefore be requested henceforth to adopt exclusively the pronunciation of specified above and hereby adopted by the association." Pecan? I kept digging around the pecan Google search results and came across the National Pecan Shellers Association over on ilovepecans.org. And they reference that the correct pronunciation lies in Megan Jones's Reader's Digest article titled Pecan Pronunciations. Is it pecan or pecan? She's not saying pecan either. Pecan, pecan, pick on, pecan, pecan, pecan. Pecan? Has anyone ever done pecan? Jones describes the cases for both pronunciations. Pecan comes from the Native American word pecani. Dictionary.com and Merriam-Webster both have pecan as the first pronunciation, and they provide the audio for that pronunciation. So case closed. But pecan was the preferred pronunciation among 45% of Americans, according to the National Shellers Association chart that we looked at earlier. The remaining 55% of Americans are split between pecan and pecan. Jones also goes on to note how many words were added to the dictionary in 2019 just because people said them. We're adding and changing words all of the time as our culture, world events, trends dictate them so. Human waste that contained pecan bits near the banks of the Rio Grande showed archaeologists that people have been eating pecans since at least 6750 BCE. There's also evidence to support that pecans were used as trade for hundreds of years before Europeans came. As mentioned before, the indigenous
Algonquin
word pecani means nut too hard to crack by hand. Other Native American tribes brought pecans wherever they traveled. They were an essential staple in their diet since they could be easily transported, gathered in large quantities. Some tribes would travel up to 75 miles to help the Miriame tribe eat pecans, according to Cabeza de Vaca, the Spanish explorer. Wells and Juan Sabata, a Jumano who lived in West Texas in the late 1600s, told explorers, "The river which they call Las Nueces is a 3 days journey from that place, that there are nuts in such abundance on this river that they constitute the maintenance of many nations who enjoy friendship and barter in exchange with his." Native Americans would use pecans in other ways too. They made a drink of fermented pecans called paco hicora, which they would drink before battles to enhance their bravery, during religious ceremonies as well. Comanche tribes would ground pecan leaves into a poultice to treat ringworm. Plains Apaches would use the wood as handles on their tools. Kiowa would boil its bark to make an extract to help people with tuberculosis. And the Lumbee would use its bark tea to treat an upset stomach. When Spanish explorers, who were looking for freshwater pearls, came upon villages of Jumano Apaches throughout New Mexico and Texas, they ended up finding better trade with buffalo skins and pecans with the Jumanos. The Spanish explorer Antonio Espejo first used the term Jumano in 1582 to refer to the agricultural peoples living at La Junta. The Jumanos are described as a tribe of a few tribes that inhabited western Texas, New Mexico, and Mexico. This is disputed, however, because Spanish explorers were likely just not learning the names of all of these tribes and just lumped them all together under one name, Jumano. These tribes would have foraged other things like acorns, currants, grapes, juniper berries, mulberries, persimmons, plums, and of course, pecans. Jumanos along the Rio Grande in West Texas grew things like beans, corn, squash, and they gathered mesquite beans, screw beans, and prickly pear. They consumed buffalo and cultivated crops after settling along the Brazos River, where they started eating more things like fish, clams, and berries. They were discovered by Spanish explorers in 1581, and they were estimated to be extinct by 1750. They're assumed to have been extinct because of an infectious disease. During the last decades of the 17th century, they were noted as traders and political leaders of the Southwest. Spanish and French explorers first thought the pecan was a walnut because that's what they were used to, and the pecan did not end up catching on in Europe. They didn't like it. Whenever they invaded North America and started colonizing, they brought over the walnut. Over time, though, pecans started becoming more popular. It made it to New England by the mid-1700s. In 1772, the first documented pecan planting in the U.S. happened in Long Island, New York, in Prince Nursery. And at this time, settlers in the South are harvesting from pecan trees, but they're not really actively farming them. When lumber became the super hot harvest, pecan trees were left alone again because their wood was inferior and it took too long to dry. The pecan tree escaped agriculture and the lumber industry for a long time. In fact, the pecan tree was able to escape agricultural science longer than any other commercial fruit or nut plant in American history.
That's an oak tree, not a pecan tree. You see it? Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't find any pecans on my walk, surprisingly. I did find this ancient cattail. Oh yeah, it looks very old. This is an ancient caddo tale called The Woman Who Ate All the Pecans, told by Wing. There lived an old woman who was mother to all of the pecan trees. She owned all of the trees and gathered all the nuts herself. When people went to her lodge, she would give them just a few pecans to eat, but would never allow them to take any away. People were very fond of pecans and they wanted to take some away for their own use, but the old woman would not let them have any. One time, the people were very hungry, and the old woman had everything in her lodge filled with pecans, but she still would give them only a few when they went to go see her, and she made them eat them all before going away. This made the people angry, and they decided something must be done. There was in this village an old man who had 4 little sons who were very troublesome and meddlesome. The people, they were field rats, thought that these 4 little boys would be the right ones to go over to the old woman's house some night to try to steal some of the nuts. They chose these 4 boys because they were small and quiet and sly, and because they were such a nuisance around the village that they would be no great loss to the people if the old woman killed them. The rats were willing to go because they were always glad to be meddling. The kids are rats too. They chose one to slip over and make sure that the old woman was asleep. He went to her lodge and peeped in through a small hole and saw that she was still at work. He waited until she finished her work and went to bed. Then when he heard her snore, he ran back home to tell his brothers to come. When he was inside his father's lodge, he saw a stranger sitting there. The stranger was Coyote. He had come to tell the rats not to trouble about stealing pecans from the old woman, for he was going to go over the next day to kill her. Coyote was afraid to trust the rats. He wanted to go himself so that he could get the most of the pecans. The next morning, he went over to see the old woman and acted very friendly. The old woman gave him some pecans, and he sat down and ate them all up. Then he asked her for some more, and as she turned around to get them, he pulled out his stone knife and struck her on the head. She died. And ever since then, the pecan trees have grown everywhere and belong to all of the people. While I did not find any pecans on my walk, this story had quite the nut in it. Yeah. Keep in mind that these early tribes used pecans partially as currency to trade and barter with other tribes. So it's interesting to think of this story from that sort of lens. If you just replace pecans with money, eat the rich. I'm going to put this ancient tale back in its ancient glass bookshelf. It's a decoration now. I wanted to add another little section to this about how to pick a pecan in case you live nearby one of the trees. Here is the guide on how to pick a pecan. You want to look for some that are uniform in color and size with no cracks or holes. The nut should not rattle when shaken. That signals a shriveled pecan. The shelled pecan should be plump, not shriveled, light golden in color. Always store them in the refrigerator, freezer, in order to keep their quality and freshness.
Final thoughts. Doing this not in the best setup, but that's fine. Let's take a little taste. While it was cooking, it smelled exactly like my grandma's kitchen. That was crazy. Here's a little piece. Very crumbly, it's very dry. I may have overcooked it a little bit though. Zero out of 10. I don't think this is a good recipe. Either that or I just didn't make it right. This one will not be going in the cookbook. Yeah, no. That's chill though. One recipe down, 999 more to go. Thanks for watching.